there it goes.
Well, hello, Emily. How are you today?
Hi. Doing well, doing well. Hi,
Thank
Jessica.
you so much for joining me. I am excited to get to talk to you, learn a little bit more about you, and hear about your CFP journey. So, start by tell me a little bit about yourself, like background, where did you start in the industry? Tell me a little bit.
hmm Well, sure. So I'm based in Little Rock, Arkansas. That's home for me. And my background is so I started off my career in corporate philanthropy.
Okay.
So I worked for the Clinton Foundation, and then I transitioned into managing a corporate giving program.
Mhm.
Along the way, went to grad school, got an MBA. And so I've just always been really interested in money and meaning. And so it kind of became a natural transition a few years ago, or pulling on my heartstrings that I can do this for individuals and families and really bring money and meaning together in very important ways for people. And so decided to make the switch and then buckled up and realized all the credentials and things that needed to be done. And so I've been with my current firm for about a year and a half.
Okay. Wonderful. And when
Mhm.
did you have to take classes in order to get to that point, or did you have enough like school to just get to start studying for the exam at that point? Out of curiosity.
So my MBA, there are things that lend itself to the CFP curriculum, especially more on, a ma more macro level. But
Yeah.
personal finance is very different than corporate finance,
Yes.
and so I launched into. I've always worked full time and done studying outside of it. So I'm very thankful to be, I guess, spoiler alert, very thankful to be done with that for hopefully forever.
Yes.
But yeah, so I launched in, I got my Series 65 and then knew
Yep.
the next step was going to be the CFP. And so I remember walking out of that Series 65 exam, like, okay, another 2 years maybe, of education and exam and experience hours. So yeah, so that was the credentialing I had to get done for it.
And so was your CFP path like super smooth? Was it let's buckle down, I'm gonna take it, and I'm done in 3 months? Like walk me through one
Mhm.
and done. Like what was your experience with that?
Yeah, yeah. I would love to hear the person that's like, it was smooth, it was fine, yeah.
I studied a few hours here and there. It was great. I didn't miss anything.
Great,
It was
yeah.
just
Right.
one
It
test.
was just so intuitive.
Right.
So, my CFP journey was a journey that I look back, it's one of the proudest things I've done to date professionally. So I guess the quick of it is that I launched into, when I started at my firm, launched into the education. Then immediately after I finished that, decided to go for my first attempt. So I started studying July 2024, dedicated studying for the exam. Took it
Yeah.
in November, came close, but was unsuccessful in that attempt. And then so realized, okay, I've got to change something different this time. And so started working with a tutor, stayed with the same course provider, but
Who
and
did you
then was
use as a course
successful.
provider?
Sure, I used Danko
Danko.
as
Okay.
a provider.
I'd worked with Danko as well.
And then and then passed, was successful in March of 2025, second time. So
Yay.
yes, yeah,
It is a
yeah,
wild, it is
yeah.
wild when so to let you know, I took it 3 times. So first
Mhm.
time I used Danko, tried to go through, thought I was studying as much as I possibly could.
hmm
Then hindsight is a lovely thing. And then I went and took it again. I think it was, so that was in October. No, November. And then I did one in March. So yeah, I
hmm
did it immediately after. And then
Sure.
failed
Mhm.
that. And that was literally crushing to me. And
Yes.
I was
hmm
not in a good place. And then I actually talked to Paul about doing the tutoring that in was going to start in January. I talked to him in December, and I realized that
hmm
was several months later. I still wasn't ready, which was very frustrating because I just wanted to
It
get it done.
is.
And then
Right, right.
I worked with Paul for, it was supposed to be 6 months, and then I got a concussion. So it was off for 6 weeks. I was supposed to take it in November, and we had to make a call, and it was It was hard, but I pushed it again because I'm like, I'm not doing this again after this. And I ended
Hmm.
up taking it this
Hmm.
past March and passing, but it was literally the most proud moment
Hmm.
ever because it took
Hmm.
so much and um,
Yes.
it was a lot. It was a lot.
Right,
So,
right.
and I think, I don't know about you, but for me, I loved using Danko. I'm a very, if somebody tells me do XYZ and you'll get the result, that's what I want. And what was very
Hmm.
different my third time is working, when I worked with Paul, it was you, it's not about the quantity, it's about the quality. So I kept asking,
Right.
how many hours do I need to do? Just tell me, like, what exactly? And
Hmm.
that was very uncomfortable for me. And so I don't know if you
Hmm.
experienced that at all, but it was like you clearly have to do something different to get different results. But I'm a very tell me how to do it and I will do it. And going off
Hmm.
course of what the norm is was very
Hmm.
hard for me. But
Oh
it's what
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I think that lends to people who pursue this because it's very obviously driven people who are smart, organized, we're planners.
yep,
And
literally. Yep.
right, right. And I mean, the first time I had my whole spreadsheet, I had my, 350 hours outside of class time.
Yep.
Um, and yeah, and then, realizing that right, quantity, you're not used to working so hard for something because usually it's like you work hard, you understand the material, you put in all these hours, you invest it, and then it pays off. And in our case, it was a delayed payoff, but
Correct.
getting that unsuccessful, that fit across your screen in November, for me, it was gut-wrenching. I had never had something like that happen to me before. But to go back to what you're saying, where you Paul, really the quality, I mean, that was a real mindset shift for me too, because it was like you're telling me to take a day off a week.
Oh,
You
that
know, I
was
yeah, I can't, I don't know if I can do that. It's just because I just feel like I have to hold all the material right here so I don't, forget anything.
and
But
it's
it
like
really
work
helped me
harder,
trust.
harder, and you'll
Mhm.
get it. And I think
Right.
it's funny. So the first few months, I would get up at 4:30, do my tutoring with him at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I
Yeah.
remember I told he'd say to me like, "What's your day off?" And I'd say, "Oh, it's Sunday." He's like, "But we're tutoring right now," and I go, "Well, this doesn't count. I mean, this is just the tutoring part. I'm not studying on my own." And I could not get
Right.
through my head that I literally needed to not look at anything on that day off. And
Right.
I have three kids
Hmm.
under the age of 10. So it was
Wow.
like I only have so much time, but you run yourself into a wall if you don't
I
literally shut
do.
up. So like I would do
Right.
Saturdays until I don't know, 2 or 3, however it worked out. And then I was off until Monday morning, but it felt
Hmm.
very uncomfortable. But then I had this energy on Monday morning to like restart and just go. And there wasn't the fear.
Right.
I didn't
Right.
have to worry on Sundays about, oh, instead of being with the kids, I should be studying because I knew I'm not allowed to study. So it just made it a
Hmm.
little
Right.
bit more,
Right.
I could be more
Hmm.
present. So,
Right. And not only that you could be more present and refreshed from the material, but I would say especially for retakers,
yes.
trust yourself. You have poured so much time into understanding this
Mm-hmm.
material. That does not go away. You know this. And so having to learn to like trust myself and trust that I knew this body of knowledge and like the back of my hand, it was intuitive at that point. So but you can feel that fear. It's like, did I capture everything? Did I get everything? Like, are they going to ask me that one
Right,
question about this topic
right.
in tax planning that I didn't read again? So,
And it's
yeah.
also wild, I think, because there's so much information. They can only ask you so much. But for the third of
Hmm.
times when I worked with Paul, I didn't understand what somebody told me when they said we're going to go 3 layers deep. It's like, what are they talking about? And then
Hmm.
I understood the material so much better. I was not trying to memorize
Hmm.
to pass a test. I was literally, and it made
Right.
me a better planner. It made me just more be able to embrace the whole picture rather than, okay, there's these 26 topics. I need to know every single thing.
Hmm.
By the time I got to
Hmm.
the test, you're not looking at it. Is this a tax question? Is this an estate? It's all of it.
Hmm.
And you just need to
Hmm.
break it down and peel back the onion of what it's actually asking. So,
Exactly.
so
Exactly.
helpful.
Right. Yes.
Um,
Yeah. Hmm.
So I know you said like your original study plan you were doing, you map out the 350 hours and exactly how you're going to
Mhm.
do it. Um,
Mhm.
how was your new study plan, your second attempt different? I know you said
Sure.
you were working with Paul, but what did you do different? Even if it was uncomfortable, what did you do that was
Mhm.
different?
Sure, sure. So I knew I needed to change it up. I heard a really great webinar on the CFP board. It was a few retakers that talked
Yes.
through their experience.
I think I
And
was
so,
Madison on that one?
yes, it was
Yes.
Madison.
Okay. I heard that one. I was
Mhm.
like, I can do this.
Yes, yes. And so I knew that something had to change because what I was doing with Danko, while excellent, course provider, it just wasn't working for me. And I knew that I was more of a kinesthetic learner and needed more exposure to questions.
Yes.
That it was like I understood these concepts.
Yep.
I need a little bit more applying them, digging deeper into them. So that's when I reached out to Paul, and he from the CFP website or the board website. And so I will say I actually structured my plan very similar in a similar way that I did the first time. I recreated the spreadsheet,
Yep.
which is a
That's what
whole
I did.
journey in itself to realize you came so far. It's like, oh, I've got to do this all over again. But I still went through, for me, it felt most comfortable to go back through the entire
Mm-hmm.
material, follow the Danko plan, but then start supplementing with sessions with Paul. So we would have like our 6 a.m. sessions.
Yep.
Um, and that was such a game changer for me because the technical knowledge was there, but just how are they asking this question? I knew the concept, but how are they asking it? What do they want? There's so many misreads and traps in this material that you don't realize until you kind of realize. It's like, I know how to read a question. It's like, no, you start falling into these traps and it's like, oh, I'm understanding now. And so that was the game changer for me. And just building confidence too. It was
Yes.
like, I knew options, but then Paul took me through an options chain, and
Yep.
showed me it's like, oh, I'm understanding this time value, I'm understanding this concept so much more deeply now.
Correct. It's not
And
just the
so
surface level of here's the fact. Yeah.
exactly. And so when I went into the March exam, it was just a night and day experience. I mean, I was still nervous, of
Right.
course, but on some of the questions, yeah, I would just apply exactly, I had been doing 100 questions a day. It was muscle memory. And I almost knew, I was like, I know exactly what they're going to ask me about this
Yep.
topic. And I knew the question, it was like, okay, this is the trap, and then this is what they want. Because you whittle it
And
down to those two really good answers. And
right. And then
it's,
you're like, there's one word, and I'll tell you, I've never been a great test taker, and in the past
mhm,
couple of years, I was diagnosed as a result of this studying process. I'm like, what is not
mhm,
working? I've always, I
mhm,
don't want to say struggled in school, but I've always worked 10 times harder than most people to get the same
mhm,
grades. Um,
sure.
and I got diagnosed with ADHD, and so that was one of those. And it reminds me so much of like my childhood. It's all making sense in terms of school and everything.
Mhm,
But I would
mhm,
read, I started using my finger to read the questions. And when I started with Paul, like I would read words differently than they were there. Like instead of do not or don't, or like I would read
mhm,
do. And so it's like those little, I had to zoom out and just try to see where the traps were going to be and then reread it to
right.
see, okay, am I actually reading what it says or what I think it says or what I want it to
What
say?
if? Mhm.
And that
Yes. What
that
you
was a
want to say,
game
yes.
changer.
Mhm.
And having had test taking anxiety forever, it was
Mhm.
when Paul told me when we first started working that at the end I was going to be doing 100 questions a day the last
Mhm.
month. I was like, you are out of your, there's no way I'm getting through 100. And it was so uncomfortable at first. And then I realized it almost for me was like exposure therapy because I was taking
Mhm.
so much, doing so many questions that by the time I got to the exam, like you said, it was, you know what they're going to ask. You pretty much can, there's only so many ways they can ask the question.
With the gasket, right.
And
Mhm.
there was no
Mhm.
fear. There was no, because, well, there was fear, but you're just so used to doing it. It's like
Yes.
you brush
Mhm.
your teeth in the morning. You don't think twice about it. You just do it. Okay, I have questions, and they're split up into sections where if you're doing 100 questions a day, it's pretty much 1.5 days worth of questions on the exam. So it's not
Mhm.
as painful. Your stamina grows, and that was a game changer for me. That was a game
Yes.
changer. 100 questions.
Right. Yes. Absolutely. Right. I don't know about you, but I did not sleep at all the night before.
Nobody
And
does. You can't. Your
yeah,
brain is. You wake up in the last month and you're like with definitions, or you're visualizing
right.
this versus this, and you're like, go to bed, go to bed, go to bed.
Yes, right, right. And so I knew it was just muscle memory at that
Uh-huh.
point. Like it was all the training that I had put in because I had not had any sleep the night before. It was
Did you take, how much time did you take off before the exam? Like, did you take a day and a half? I know.
right. The first time I took a week off work just to study for those last few days, hit the few
No,
more
I mean, how much
questions,
did you
and then
literally stop
oh,
studying? Did you stop the full day before? Or did you try to sneak in studying?
yes. Yes, I stopped the full day before both times. And that is so, again, like what I was saying about trust yourself. You know this stuff. Like you're not going to forget in 24 hours. If you don't know it 24 hours before you go into that room, you're not going to know it when you're in there. So it's a real journey of trust. Yeah. And
It really is
knowing
about
yourself.
the trust because I agree
Hmm.
110%. I kept saying to Paul, I'm gonna it's all just gonna start disappearing out of my brain. Like if I'm not looking at it, if I'm not looking at it, and
Right,
I took a
right.
full. I think I took 2 days. I was like, I have to do totally different. Whatever Paul tells me to do this time, I'm going to do it because clearly my way did not work for 2 times. And I did like the saltwater floats. I did a massage.
Oh.
Because I'm like, if
Uh-huh.
I don't keep myself busy slash relaxing,
Hmm. Right,
what the heck am I going to do? So
right.
yes,
I
structured
like that
time
busy, relaxing. Yes,
is
yes.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, and then what about um, I know you said the confidence was a big piece and
Hmm.
trusting yourself. What do you know now about yourself that you didn't know or you weren't acknowledging prior?
Prior, interesting. I think two things. I think
Okay.
the first is that it's hard for me to ask for help because you're used to just making it happen and you don't want to burden people. But for this, it took a real community of people to help get through the exam. I mean, my family, my friends, the Danko team, Amy Leese, Paul, Jimmy, everyone. And so I would say just asking for help, that was a big thing, big step for me. And then the second thing is just this experience. I mean, of course, I wish I passed my first time. Everyone, wishes they did. It made me a better planner for it because not only did I get a deeper understanding of the material, but it shows what are you really made of? You have to have you have to be brave to fail. And that was a big thing that stuck with me. And just have the courage because you want this and you want to do the best for your clients. And so, just the resilience that I showed throughout this process and that all retakers show, I think it's something that we should all be really proud of for ourselves.
No, I agree. And I think, you know, for me, I just felt very alone after the first, like when I failed the first and then definitely the second time, because all you see are people celebrating online. Nobody's saying, "Oh, I failed. I'm struggling.
Hmm.
reaching out." It's a not shame, but it's just a yucky feeling, especially like you
It
said, if
is.
you're used
Yeah.
to working your butt off and always being able to achieve. It
Right.
it feels like a setback, but I cannot stress how much I have grown in like you said, the
Mhm.
trust in yourself, the confidence, and it just feels so good afterwards. There's
Yes.
like a different sense of appreciation and just you can do anything. And
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
I just want people, whoever sees this to know that you're not alone.
You're
It is
not.
painful.
Mhm.
It sucks. Once you don't rush back into it if you're mentally, if you need to recoup for a little bit.
Right.
The first time I did not work. And some people are like you were clearly ready, you were able to do that,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
it can be taxing mentally and emotionally. And like I said, I've got 3 little kids, my husband travels, and so it takes a lot out of the family when somebody's studying and not present. And
Hmm.
so sometimes you take a break, sometimes you don't, but yeah, we're all in it
Right.
together. We're there to support each other,
All,
find a team.
yes.
Like the team part is, whether it's Danko, whether it's Delta, whoever the program is, and mentally and emotionally and physically are
Hmm.
huge.
Yes. Right. Right. And I think something that really stuck with me too about that is that, I mean, if you look at the stats, it's mid 60s of the amount of people who pass it on their first time. That's a lot of people who don't pass it every
Yeah.
cycle. And talking to colleagues, and it's like, oh, you didn't pass it the first time? Oh,
And nobody
you
tells you
realize
this. Nobody like
nobody tells you this. And it does not, that exam does not define you as a planner. And I think that is so important for people to know, because I know so many amazing planners who, passed it on their, third or, second or third time.
yeah.
Um, so I think that, like this does not define you, even though it is all consuming your life. You feel like you're giving your life to it. It does not
And it'll
define
never
you.
end. It
Mhm.
it does end. I
Right.
promise
It
you. There is
doesn't.
light at the end of
Yes,
the
it
tunnel.
ends.
There is light.
Yes, yes, yes. If I could tell, if like whoever's watching this, you will pass this exam. You will. You will. You just have to keep
Keep
hustling
your head
for it,
down.
keep study, and so, but you will
And
pass it.
tears are okay. Did you have any tears along the journey?
Oh my goodness, so
Okay. Oh, so
many.
that's normal.
Yes,
Got it. Okay, got
yeah, yes,
it.
yes, yes. Especially after the end of the first attempt. I mean, that was a grieving process. You said about coming back into it. I took about 4 weeks not looking at any material, and that you have to do that.
You cannot
But
dive immediately back in. If you're going to take the next cycle, fine. But like you said, that
right.
4 weeks off just to clear your mind, start fresh.
Right, right, right. And I will say, like, also for the next, I passed 5 out of the 8 sections, and the two that I was unsuccessful in are pretty common for people who are newer to the industry,
Okay.
to not pass the.
Yeah.
So I knew I was knocking on the door, and so after talking to Paul, kind of, he encouraged me. He's like, "You're knocking on the door. You just push through." So it's different for everyone to say, like
Yes.
like you were saying.
My
Just
my
want to
first
echo what
time
you
it
were
was
saying.
I
Yeah.
had some in the red, some in the green, some like down the middle, and then the second attempt it was like the total opposite. So I'm like, I have no idea where. So I was literally, I'm like, we're starting over. We're gonna embrace the learning process, and
Yes, yes.
it's different for
Mhm.
everybody. It really
Right.
is.
It really is. Right, right.
There's nothing wrong with
But
you, no matter where your results are each time.
no, right. Right, right. I think yeah, it's just so important to know what is my learning style?
Mhm.
Can I create my own study plan? Do I need someone to create it for me? Am I a kinesthetic learner? Can I do a live review? Can I sit there for 3 days and absorb everything? In addition to doing all the
Correct.
work ahead of time. But
Yeah.
just I think if I could go back to the beginning of the process, I would have sat with myself and said, this is how I learn. I know this, not just what everyone recommends on
Yep.
the board,
Yep.
and gone with the program based on that.
Yep.
Hmm.
My other thing I would say, did you ever do a study group?
I did the first time.
Okay, I did, and I will tell you that it was not as helpful for me because I feel like too many cooks in the kitchen trying to, I don't know. I think the
Yes.
one-on-one for me with, the tutor with Paul was it focused exactly on what I needed. There were no distractions. I didn't look on any of the
Yeah.
boards for encouragement. I did have a few people that were mentors that I would reach out to, but to try to stay
Hmm.
in my own lane was so important to me on that third attempt.
Yes. Well said. For me as well. I realized that I just needed to work one-on-one with people. And again, it goes back. It's like if you join it and is this working for me? And
Correct.
ask yourself those questions. Ask, what did I learn from this?
Yeah.
How am I better than yesterday from what
Yes.
I learned here? And just be really critical with yourself on what you are learning, because that time is precious that you've spent. Quality of time,
Yes. Quality
right?
over
Mhm.
quantity.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
I thank you so much for getting on,
Right.
telling us about your story.
Yes.
Um, I will leave with telling you guys you can do this. We have
Hmm.
gotten through it. There are dark times, there are exciting times. You do great on
Yes.
questions, and then the next day you might not do great. Keep going. Trust the process.
Hmm.
I know that sounds corny. I would get very upset at Paul when you would tell me that, but I'm telling you, it is true. So have a great
Yes.
day, and it was nice chatting.
It was nice chatting. Thank you, Jessica. Thanks,
Bye,
everyone.
Emily.
Or everyone. Yeah.